You discussed the importance of allowing for a diversity of opinions in a democratic society. Please share your recommendations on that topic.
Thank you. Dear Honorable Commissioner Ogg, in 1859, English philosopher John Stuart Mill wrote, and I paraphrase, "It is possible that any opinion that is compelled to silence may be true. To deny this is to assume our own infallibility. It is only by collision of adverse opinions that the remainder of the truth has any chance of being supplied." I want to start by thanking the Commission and our Government of Canada for allowing diverse reflections on foreign interference in Canada's democratic processes. Dealing with covert foreign interference by foreign governments and corporations is something that needs expertise and a lot of resource allocation. However, I wish to draw your attention to what is overt foreign interference through silencing some voices and amplifying other voices by our friends and foes. This interference can be mobilized directly by foreign governments or indirectly through foreign institutions, foreign corporations, foreign individuals, or even indirectly through Canadian institutions, corporations, and individuals. Some of media organizations based in Canada are owned by foreign entities, including our allies, such as the United States. Canadian public sphere must be a place in which various opinions are heard, and the result of deliberation of informed Canadians should determine the path of our country. Independent, religious, non-partisan diaspora organizations, such as Iranian Canadian Congress, are part of Canadian public sphere and should be protected from information wars organized by media outlets established with foreign investments by authoritarian or democratic states. Foreign actors and governments of other nations, democratically elected, authoritarian or autocratic, friend or foe, are not citizens of Canada and do not have the right to intervene in our democratic processes, but of course feel entitled to pursue their own national interests. Foreign countries are not monolithic. Various actors and diverse ideologies may prevail in other countries at different times. It is quite possible that what Canadians decide to do may be inconsistent with the decisions made by other democracies. The prevailing parties in other democracies may wish a different outcome in Canadian elections than what the majority of Canadians want. The history has shown that Canadian people have been able to independently make choices that later were found more prudent than the decisions made by other democracies. In fact, the recent history, for example, in Iraq, shows that our allies would have been better off if they had followed the Canadian lead. While we cannot block freedom of press and media, we should ensure that when foreign-linked or foreign-backed media organizations engage with our public, the public is aware of their linkages and foreign backing. Some suggestions are, it should be illegal for institutions funded by foreign governments, foreign corporations, and foreign individuals to try to mobilize campaigns to influence democratic process in Canada. It should be illegal for media institutions and individuals with opaque sources of funding to try to influence the Canadian political system. We need to investigate these organizations and their financial sources and ensure that any individual or group engaging in political activities in Canada disclose their foreign financial and organizational ties. This will prevent them from acting through proxies or front organizations. Activities of foreign journalists and contractors for foreign institutions or government within Canada should be regulated. Journalists employed by foreign media institutions should be required to remain impartial. Their bias or hostile statements regarding Canadian political figures, including political candidates, should be illegal. It should be required that such foreign-linked media organizations to be clearly identified and recognized when reporting or asking questions at Canadian political events. Furthermore, those who testify in front of parliamentary committees must be required to disclose any foreign ties, financial or organizational, as part of parliamentary records. Canadian agencies who are protecting us from foreign adversaries can also ask our foreign partners to refrain from allowing their public or private entities to conduct disinformation or misinformation operations targeting Canadian entities. It should be clear to any government, adversarial or partner, that there will be a price if they conduct such operations against Canadian citizens or institutions.
Thank you. Mr. Ghasseminejad Tafreshi, at your consultation meeting, the topic of the flow of benefits and funds into the Canadian political system was raised. Please share and explain your suggestions.
Thank you. Diaspora organizations such as Iranian Canadian Congress, who value Canada's soft truths of one solution or another to a given problem, requires the assumption of infallibility. The worldview of war hawks in our allied nations and in other countries dictates an impossibility of the existence of win-win solutions. Therefore, they attempt to discredit and silence the organizations that do not echo their desire for a confrontational approach. But ideology is not the only factor. It is unfortunate that the privatization of military-industrial complexes all over the world has created incentives for adoption of such a worldview everywhere. At this dangerous moment in world history, many foreign actors have various incentives to interfere in Canada's political discourse. It should be self-evident that it must be illegal for Canadian political actors to engage in what is called favor economy by accepting favors from any channel that may give foreign actors the opportunity to funnel their funds and then influence Canadian political system. All foreign powers, including parties who may come in power in our partner states, may use Canadian think tanks, diaspora organizations, and other non-governmental institutions to sway our political actors toward their ideological ends. Whether or not institutions are aware that their actions is affected by their funding is not important, because funding influences the output of organizations regardless of the amount of their confidence in themselves. Moreover, Canadian institutions and individuals may be used as a front for foreign entities funneling favors, benefits, and funds into Canadian democratic system. Entities whose interests are not aligned with national interests of Canada should be monitored for such interference, but authorities should not give Canada's supposed allies a free pass for funneling money into Canadian democracy and public sphere. MPs should not be allowed to accept favors from organizations or individuals whose source of income is opaque or ambiguous. Increasing MPs' allowances to facilitate foreign travel and reasonable accommodation such that they would not need to accept favors will be taxpayer money well spent, since it reduces the likelihood of Canadian politicians to be cheaply influenced by foreign entities. Then they can be prohibited from accepting foreign-linked favors, and then the purpose of any other benefit that they may accept can be questioned. All non-governmental institutions who interact in public sphere in Canada should be prevented to be used as middlemen to channel the favors to Canadian political actors. It should be illegal for think tanks and lobbyists, Canadian or foreign, to conceal the evidence of any foreign funding by any source, and they should be mandated to disclose their sources of funding. Canadians have every right to know the identities of states, corporations, or foundations they are funding, what influences their public discourse. Universities and think tanks who accept foreign-linked funding should be required by law to disclose the sources of their funding. All individuals, institutions who provide funding, favors, or benefit to actors in Canadian democracy should be registered with lobbyist status and disclose all their sources of income and spending. A little more time. All political figures in Canadian democracy should be prohibited from accepting favors from foreign entities or from organizations or individuals whose source of income is opaque or ambiguous. Such behavior should be regulated. Allowances and budgets should be large enough to facilitate the needs of politicians. I will finish with a quote from the wonderful Canadian TV series Murdoch Mysteries. In it, while Detective William and Dr. Julia used the most advanced technologies of the time to find criminals, the Inspector Breckenridge had one advice that often helped the start of their very technical investigation. His advice was, follow the money. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner, this concludes our final panel for today.
Thank you very much. I listened very carefully to what you said. I took notes by chance. I also have others that are taking notes and won't prepare summaries because there's a lot of information that have been provided. But I really want to thank you all. Thank you. Alors demain matin.